Buenas and Hafa Day. This is F. Glenn Lujan.
And I'm Joshua Sanakastine.
And welcome to our show,
Hafa Day Zoo,
where we talk about and discuss all things related to our LGBTQ community. And so, Josh, would you like to go ahead and introduce our special guests?
Our special guest with us today, we have Blondie, Trinity, and the legendary Lana.
And of course, Miss Trinity. She's the reigning Miss Queen of the Pacific.
Hi. Very true. Yes, that is a true statement, Glenn. Thank you for pointing that
out. So anyway, so today we're continuing on our discussion on
Waiting on Me to Be Me.
Yes, and we're going to get some insight and some sharing their stories with Lana and Trinity. And, so Josh, take it away.
All right. I guess we want to talk about transition. Like, was it difficult for you? How was it? Like, what were your struggles, if you had any? If you had, say, parts of it like you weren't struggling with, like, what were the good and the bad?
Oh, me?
Either one of you.
My first time, I knew always that I was female in my heart. And today I can vouch that my family, they knew since I was a child. They would tell me stories how I was raised up and had the female quality even at the age of 5. And then it went on. I cannot say I didn't understand what was going on because I just kept living my life as a female in my heart. And I did things very feminine. And I went through ups and downs, elementary, junior high, senior high, and 1 year of university. I had no bullying. And I thank the Lord for that. My so-called classmates, a lot of them are very happy that I did what I did because they would tell me they always knew. Of course, the outlook at that time was kind of different. I was born male, but it was just a one-day thing, 24-hour period that I decided that I wanted to be a female. So my transitioning was on the year 75. And yes, it was very hard because I transitioned 24 hours in dresses and feminine clothes, makeup and everything. And yes, there was a lot of bullying out there, a lot of hatred, a lot of hard things I had to go through. And especially when you go around businesses, every business, I mean, I would always hear the word, especially the Filipinos, bakla, Chamorros, they're what they say, lauanan, things like that. Yeah, but I didn't retaliate. I was just so hurt and confused, Mm-hmm. Why are you guys doing this to me? But I went on, and still there was a lot of obstacles in my way to really get to where I wanted to be. And I did. On March 3rd, 1985, I had my surgery. And it was just a great feeling afterwards. I woke up. My sister woke me up in Mexico, and she looked at me. She told me, "Wake up." And I opened my eyes. She goes, "You're a woman now." And when she said that, it was just lifted. Something was lifted out of me.
Wow.
But even after that, I had to deal still with the human hatred and the people that didn't understand. And some of them I sometimes would really just curse in my heart, which was wrong. But my mother would always tell me, the only one that would always tell me is just let it go, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Let God handle it.
Yeah.
So life went on, and to this day, I know now that the most person that was hurt was my mother. And that's what I want to tell everybody out there that's doing the same thing, is that your mother is the hope, the faith, and the stronghold of your life, and she was so grateful when I came home from the surgery. The minute she opened the door to the house, she started crying, and she said, now I'm relieved. You've set me free.
I think that's very truly beautiful, because our mothers are strong. They hold the family together, and a lot of us in our community. I mean, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna say my experience too. My mother was my rock when I came out, in telling her that I was gay. And I know many of us have similar stories with our mothers, but sadly, we do have families that aren't like that. But we're very blessed. Yes, we're very blessed.
Lana, would you say it was easier being the way you are here versus elsewhere?
There's not a lot of differences. I was traveling back and forth before my transitioning. The first thing I had to do was go get at that time, we had to go get a release form to take hormones in San Francisco. That's where the place was. So I got that, went back home, started looking for jobs, odds and ends, and I just kept living my life. Unfortunately, I met two of my friends that are now women in college, and they took me out one night and showed me the life, and I just I like this life. This is what I've been looking for. Mm-hmm. And I did. And that, like I said, that was the day that I just, in 24 hours, I made that decision. My mom went crazy. My family went crazy.
That's usually the case,
The one that supported me always with my siblings was my oldest brother. And today I don't even comprehend how, he was the supporter most of all. She always told my brothers and sisters, stop egging her on, because if you don't, she's going to go into drugs. And my other siblings kept, and I did. I went into the dark world. I went through so much. I mean, I have stories to tell, and some of you all know my story. I became a drug addict because of the pain. That's what I did it for. I drank to numb my feelings. I had to drink when I'm going out. I had to drink, because I was just so fearful, and it made me strong. But that was my life,
And that is still an issue, within our LGBTQ community. The struggles with addiction and drugs, because, like you said,
of the life they live.
The life to live and to numb that pain, because they're just going through so much hurt. But we're really, really trying our best to shed light on this and, inform others that are listening out there that there's other ways to do it. Live life positively and surround yourself with positive people. But, thank you for sharing that, because it is still a struggle. Mm-hmm. It is still a struggle. And we're human. We're not perfect. And
today, like during my days, my era, there was only 12 of us. I counted last night how many of us, and we were 12. And we stuck together. Some of them were from Chico. Yeah. One of them is from Jordan. But we stuck together.
You formed your own community.
Yes, and we were we fought. We fought just like you guys when you pluck one another. And it's like,
It's
I hardly do that, but when I see it, it makes me laugh, because that's the way the 12 Magnificent 12, I call them.
Nice.
Were, you
Nice.
know.
I've never heard of this. This is the first time I'm hearing of this. Yeah.
And they were just, we were loves. We were all about loving each other.
Of course. That's...
And today when I came back to Guam, I think it was in 19... Anyway, they called me up and told me that, oh, Lana, Guam is gay free. And I said, what? And then there's a gay club now. And I said, oh, really?
Wow.
And I'm coming back just to see, right? And I saw that, and there they were, a lot of them. And then now, like last night, I saw like 1,000, you know. And it's, you know, the thing I want those guys to know is you're not alone,
right?
You know, and
we're out there.
be all about love, and
yes.
You know, there's still haters that will never stop.
Of course,
we will still be. There's racism, there's haters, and it happens to all kinds of all the nation.
Yeah.
You know, we're just lucky that Guam, I think, is a very loving place.
Yes.
You know, I just hope that you people you call yourself heterosexuals, I don't categorize, or how do you say it, about the gay community or the white people. We are just one nation. And you know, let go of whatever you're angry about,
yes.
you know, and let's just love one another and leave things alone,
exactly,
you know. But yet, you know, I think life is just like that. Murders will still occur. Drugs, you know, everything. But
there's always that balance, the yin and yang of things, you know, good versus evil. But, you know, like you said, you know, you sharing your story with us, it just further elevates us to strive for more.
But it also reminds us.
It's getting me emotional. I mean,
it also, you know, it's also a reminder like what Pride Month is all about. You know, the whatchamacallit, like the fight for equality, the fight. Like I remember a lot of people were asking me like, why have a Pride Month? Why this? Why that? But it's like, you know, everything you just said. It's just a reminder of what Pride Month is for.
Yeah,
why
and this thing with the Pride thing that came last month. The whole thing. It's like we're asking for equality. Is that what it is, right?
And awareness. That's what Pride Month is. Just to celebrate awareness of our community and who we are. And
so, you know, it's like either you're in or out, but we just need to relax and really enjoy life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I agree. How about you, Trin? You want to share your experience?
Well, for me, growing up, in my younger years of childhood, I was very nurtured by my godmother's mother. She always made sure that I was dressed smartly, and you know, I was a very clean child, basically. I do remember having a lot of feminine qualities growing up, though. My cousin, who was just a year older than me, every Barbie she had, I had the Ken counterpart. So you know, it was. But that was only in the earlier years of my childhood. And then as I grew older, things like that were sort of frowned upon. And, you know, it kind of segued into the hyper-masculine culture that we're used to seeing on our island. You know, don't play with that. That's for girls. Don't do this. That's
right.
You faggot. Like, you know.
That's,
for lack of a better phrase, that's
or
what
in Chamorro, your gilets. Don't play with that, you know.
That's for girls.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. But...
and now we have a gumagela. Anyway, that's another story to share.
And then as I grew older into my adolescence, that's when I kind of had to be more aware of how I was acting around certain individuals in the family, because, you know, it wasn't just a phase that they were probably thinking when I was younger. It was more of like, oh, Ailanya, this one's gonna, you know, I think that one's like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you see things and you hear things like that when you're growing up. And it was kind of a realization for me that the world isn't as fair as I thought it would be growing up. Even within your own family.
Yes.
Like you were very blessed growing up, being embraced with your femininity growing up, but mine wasn't that fortunate. I used to have things said to me like, do you want me to beat the faggot out of you, from the person who was supposed to be my protector in my family life? And that was just something that when you hear things like that, you really start to suppress who you are, and you really start to hide your emotions, and you try and butch it up around the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally, just to save yourself from getting a beating that day because you were a little too girly that day. That's the life that I grew up in. And I slowly started to come out to my friends when I was 12. I came out to myself at first when I was 12, realizing that I did have attraction towards the same gender. And, at that point, I didn't really know all the labels, but I knew that bisexual meant you liked both boy and girl. And at that time, I still had a huge crush on my best friend. And I think it was because she had beautiful long flowing hair. But, I still had a crush on her. And then I had a realization that I had a crush on a boy in the same class. And that's when I was like,
and you're like, what is this, right?
Oh dear. But now that I think about it, I know that I had a crush on Aladdin, watching that stuff growing up. You start to think back and oh, it adds up now. This is what happened. And this is where we got to this point. And I came out to most of my friends, and then I came out to some family members. I remember my aunt, I came out to her when I was 16, and I sat her down and I said, Auntie Lonnie, I have something to tell you. And she goes, what? I told her, I'm gay. And she goes, I know. I was always, my Nina always told me I was in such, I don't think I shared this at the last one, but growing up, before I came out to myself, my Nina always used to tell me, Nenny, it's okay. If you like boys, tell me, I will still love you, this and that. That was from her. She was, and, I was in such denial with everything. And I'm like, I'm not gay, I like girls. I was so defensive about it. And because I knew that everyone else in the family didn't accept that. Yeah. So, of course, I would deny. And you're not just denying you're not just denying the accusation, you're denying yourself when you're doing something like that. Truth. So, I kind of held that in until I was in high school, and then I was more confident in sharing that part of my life with some family members. And, at that time when I came out to my aunt, she was like, who do you think? You think I don't know who's wearing my high heels around the house? Oh, she got me. And it's little moments like that that really sort of bump you closer and closer to telling your truth and living it. Because, you slowly gather the people around you who will have your back and who will have the support to give you that when you need it. And then I remember I didn't come out to my mom and dad because, of the fear of getting the faggot beat out of me.
Right.
And senior year Halloween, I did dress up, as a gag. I always thought I would never transition into being a female because the only trans girls I knew in school, there was only 2 of them, and they were disrespected. They were loud, obnoxious, and stuff like that. But let me get to that later.
Halloween always seems to be that transition moment for everyone.
Because it's like an excuse.
Dress up as a girl.
It's a day that you can dress up, right?
Well, it's not only that. It's I feel like if you do that, you kind of feel a sense of empowerment, and you find some part of yourself I didn't know this was
that's
me.
just an observation and a lot of
That's why they like to say Halloween's everyone's birthday. But I dressed up for Halloween, and then not long after, it was parent-teacher conference, and I was actually outed by my Chamorro teacher to my mom, and he was like, "Hey, did you know your boy dressed up as a girl for Halloween?" And it was, he stole that moment from me. He stole that moment for me to tell my truth to the people who were raising me,
that it mattered to. Anyway.
And growing up, I didn't necessarily have the close bond that I have with my mom now, but she sort of held that piece of information and was like, do you want me to tell your dad? Whenever there was something that we disagreed on. So I guess finally, a week before graduation, she finally told him, and I was scared out of my mind. And I remember he called me outside and he asked me 3 questions. And the first question was, are you a faggot? And I looked at him and I was like, no. The second question he asked me was, are you a girl? And I said, no. This is pre-transition, of course. And then the third question he asked me was, are you gay? That's the correct, that was the moment that was the most civil question you could have asked me. So of course I answered it honestly, and I was like, yes. And he took it surprisingly a lot better than I thought he would. But, it was that double-edged blade of I don't care if you're gay as long as you're not gay under my house. Like, Leche, bro, what? I didn't get, huh? But, you know, like
It's like, I say that to my face.
you know, in that moment, that's how he felt. And I kind of understood where he was coming from, because he later on explained as I got older that he just really was trying to build me up to the harshness that the world can be.
Yeah.
And going back to the other trans girls that I met in high school, the reason why I always said I would never transition is because those girls, like I said, were all negative things that I saw. But now that I've lived this life and I kind of have that first person perspective, they were only loud and obnoxious to me, in my view, because they were defending themselves from everybody who was giving them so much hardship in school. And that's something I didn't think about at the time. But now that I'm older and I've lived the life, like, they were just sticking up for their truth.
Right.
So
Yeah.
to those two girls in high school that I sat next to one in the bus every day of the school year. Her name was Susie. She's not here anymore. She was a really good friend to me on the bus. And then the other girl was Carly, who came to the show last week. And I was so glad to see her, because now that I've, you know, found a new view on the trans life, like I understand and I respect her more for living her truth at such a young age.
Right.
Like, you know, we would hear stories in high school about how it's hard for her.
I remember Carly.
Yeah.
I think I do.
So we would hear stories about how it was so hard for her at home and stuff like that. And then it didn't help that people were giving her so much like crap at school. So it's a newfound respect for her that I have. And if she ever sees this, like, thank you for being you at a young age, Carly. It really was an inspiration. And Susie, you as well. But after that, when I turned 18, you know, because my dad said I couldn't be gay under his house, so of course I had to try and find a place, you know, to be independent and to find who I really was deep down. So my cousin and I made a plan to get an apartment together and stuff like that. And my dad and I were working at the hospital together at that time. And we were driving home from work, and we were almost home, and I lowered the radio and I said, Dad, I need to talk to you about something. Teresa and I are thinking of getting an apartment, you know, just to see if we could, you know, try it out on our own. And of course, like, it wasn't very well received. And it was even worse when I got home. And I don't think I shared this at the last podcast, because I don't want people to think that my family is horrid. It'll come full circle at the end of this story, I promise.
It does.
But that night, a week of being an adult, and I was thrown out of my house, basically naked. Like, I was stripped of the clothes off my back. My glasses were taken from me. Everything that I had in my wallet was taken. I couldn't even take my jewelry. I literally was pushed out of my house in just my boxers. And I walked to my grandma's house, and she didn't live that far. Josh knows where I live, so it's like house, empty lot house. So I walked to my grandmother's house, and I called my grandma. I thank God she was awake. It was like almost 1 a.m. And she's one of those religious women who pray the rosary when she's bored, kind of thing. And she was up praying the rosary, and I think it was just kind of God telling her not to sleep yet, because something's gonna happen. So I ended up going to her house, and I phoned my aunt, the one who teased me about wearing her high heels in the house. I phoned her, and she came and she picked me up. And before that, though, my dad actually came over and he picked me up at my grandma's house, and we were driving back home, and he was like, so why do you want to move out? And I told him, I said, because I can't be me. And, I don't think he realized why I said that, probably not till years on, but, that night, when my aunt came over, I grabbed what I could, I packed up what I could, and I shoved it in my cousin's car. Actually, my cousin was the one that came to pick me up. She left her mom at my grandma's house because she knew that if her mom was there, it would just escalate. And it's just not something that we want.
And I know her too. She
yes.
That woman's a fighter.
At that night, I was basically exiled from my family for a few years. I didn't see anybody on that side of my family for, I think, a good part of nearly 5 years. And that was in 2005 of November. And then in April of 2006, I still remember clear as day, the very first time I ever publicly presented female was April 1st, 2006 at the Smoking Wheels event in Jigo. And I did not know what the hell I was doing. Like I was growing out my hair. So, and I didn't really know makeup. I didn't really know female fashion at the time yet. So I had like, this like put together outfit, and makeup was 3 shades too light, and my hair was at this awkward length. And I look back and I just laugh because I probably looked like those Filipino ladies that go to church with that little doily on their head. That's probably how I looked. And like, it was my first time stepping out in public, and it was scary as hell, though. I remember because my cousins are short. So like walking next to them in heels, I'm like, it's like Gulliver's Travel. That's what it looks like, So, but from there, it was also a blessing that I was working at the hospital, because at that time I befriended my first trans friend who actually became my mother, and her name is Mimi, and she sort of like taught me the ropes and introduced me to the girls in the community, and like gave me hints and tips and pointers and this and that, all the secrets of this, and I noticed that my closet slowly, like all the girl clothes just kept pushing all the boy clothes out, and it got to a point where I was starting to dress like a girl to work, and I was dressing like a girl in public, and like it just felt more me, more truth to it, and then I remember I met up with some of my high school friends, and they were so excited because like they couldn't do makeup to save their life, and neither could I, but I could do more than them, so they were like happy and excited. And I remember one of my friends was like, I really like this new you. You seem more in your skin than ever. And these are my girls that had my back through all of the things that I dealt with in high school. So they know the story that I was going through. They know, they know that I almost killed myself at 15 and things like that. So for them to see me in such a happy, positive mindset, it was really healthy for them to see that in our friendship. And, I really thank Mimi and Josh's sister Kelly for being like my guiding lights, my fairy godmothers, like, these women who taught me that it's okay to be you, to be me, it's okay to be, and at that time we didn't really know the term trans. Right, like trans didn't really come up more often. It was more like, you're a drag queen. Like, that was the term that we hear, and I'm just like, okay. I mean, Chuang Fu came out, so I thought that was, and then like, we slowly started to educate ourselves and learn more and delve into what the terminologies are. Mm-hmm. And, now we call ourselves trans women, trans feminine, transgendered, things like that. And these girls, like when I first met them, some of them were still living the old life of street walking. And Josh's sister Kelly actually had an idea to put a show together. At first it was for a fundraiser, if I'm not mistaken. I know that they were performing for other stuff before that, but to actually put together a cast and try and push the idea of a show, that's when we solidified ourselves as the Untouchables. And, Kelly's vision was to try and get the girls off the streets and onto the stage. Yeah. So that it can be more of a safer way to earn income, because at the time, as Lana said, it's not very easy to gain employment as a trans woman, especially when you don't have all the legalities worked out. Like if you don't have your name changed yet, or if it still has the male marker on your ID. Businesses back then were still very crucial about hiring those that were out of the norm. So Kelly wanted to really try and make a safe space for people to let it out and to still earn income and stuff like that. And here we are from 2008 to now. We're still performing. We're still,
and we're so proud of you, because it's interesting, because our house that I belong to, the Sisters of the Moonlight, we actually have seen, Trinity, Mimi, who she's talking about, Kelly, all grow up to, we watch them to grow and develop from, and changing that stigma of, our drag queens, trans girls are not sex workers, but the reality is, yes, it has happened, because it's hard to find work, but we're so proud of them because they've elevated themselves, and they're they're productive citizens in our community.
It used to be are you one of those girls that stand behind Texas?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
You know, like now
are you one
it's
of those
like,
girls that perform in the
Are-
show?
are you one of the Diosa girls, or are you the one that performs on Thursdays? Like, you know, it's a different. The stigma has shifted
Yes,
from one of negative
definitely,
to positive.
yes.
And oh my God, speaking of meeting the Sisters of the Moonlight Lounge, I was like so terrified when I first met everybody full force at the beach. Like, I remember, I still will never forget Negra and Bubbles. Like, oh man, the football team. Like, you know that.
I clearly remember this. This was at Matapa, I forgot what
Yes.
year, but the Sisters of the Moonlight, we always have a beach gathering once a month or whenever a holiday falls. So it's just a day to just let loose. That was like our pride picnics every month. And I remember Trinity and Mimi coming, and our late friend Vince Negra and Bubbles were the receiving end. And I remember you were really nervous.
Oh my gosh, so nervous.
I remember that. And then, you know, Negra, of course, oh, if you guys loved our friend Vince Negra, he's so inviting. You know, what I shared, you know, that Bubbles is the father of our house, and he accepts everyone, all walks of life, and he's like, there's my daughters. And we all were like,
I love it though,
who are
because
these
like
two?
between Savannah, Bubbles, and Negra, they were so positive. I felt like the reception was so positive because I was a plus girl. And you know, like with Bubbles, Negra, and Savannah, they weren't petite.
Yeah.
So of course, like they're gonna give more of the booster
Yeah,
to
and they were
those,
always
you know.
supporting our plus size girls, and they're like, you know what? Screw
like-
these skinny girls.
Yeah, like never mind, girl. Just you know, things like
Never
that.
mind, girl, come and eat.
The catalyst to acceptance.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
it was such a positive experience for me
Yes.
to have that reinforcement, seeing the community, because like at that point I only knew of the club crowds, like at Denial and stuff like that, and you know, the girls of course I knew, but I never met any of the older girls, you know, the older generation and the ones who came before us until that day. And I still remember, I think I met Mama Shar that day also.
Yes.
And I remember it was her.
I think Jody Ann.
No, I don't think I met
not
Jody Ann that day.
Okay.
But I remember meeting Mama Shar, and I remember every time she sees me, she always tells me, you know, like, and you're a big girl, but you're so beautiful, this and that. Like, you know, she's very positively reinforcing me. And it's just such a blessing to have people around me like that, because sometimes you get down on yourself when, you know, you don't necessarily have the day-to-day boosters, so to speak.
I mean, you are your biggest critic, right?
Yeah, especially when you look in the mirror and you're not exactly happy with how you look or this and that. And then, you know, you hear something like that, especially from, you know, like Lana's from the legendary generation that is the Sisters of the Moonlight Lounge, that includes Shar and Jody and Crimmy.
Crim Sonia,
Like, these women were the women that literally carved out the blueprint for us to walk on the road.
Yeah.
Like, they set the path for the journey for the rest of the trans girls, and then we sort of took that fellowship and we went through it and we tried to improve it as we went along. And I think that's the only thing that we can do as the generations go by, is to try and make a better tomorrow for the generation that's coming after us.
Yeah.
We are the future ancestors, and we would like to have our legacies,
exactly.
you know, live their truth without fear. So that's kind of something that I think the girls in the house sort of do by promoting themselves in pageants and stuff like that in the show, because we're here to be visible, and we're here for you to get to know us. And if that's the only way you can get to know us is through the stage, be it pageant or the show, at least we're visible for you. At least you're there, and you're aware of who we are and what we stand for. And you know, I think there's always going to be a long way to go. Regardless, there's always improvements to make to yourself and to your life and to everything around you. But yeah, that's that.
Treat us naturally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if the word is stigma.
Mm-hmm.
Don't judge me, you know, because it's just not right, you know.
Yeah.
Respect. If you see a person that's male, then you treat that person as male. If you see that the person is wearing a dress and beautiful makeup and is beautiful, you know, treat them the way we want to be treated.
Just be
everybody.
respectful.
Yeah, and
something Kelly said a while back, and you know, it really struck home with me. You know, give the same amount of respect you want in return.
Right.
yes, very bad. But you know, I have to be honest though, with the evolution of the rainbow community that happens every year. It seems like we're progressing and stuff like that as time goes by, and there's not just one or the other. Now we are introduced to the non-binary queer.
Oh yes. Oh my goodness
So
gracious.
many of them
There's
now.
so many of these
Yes.
letters now.
And it's
After the LGBTQ plus, IA, elemental P, and don't come for us, people, when you're watching this part of the podcast.
help educate us
Help
if you
educate
know.
us,
Just come for
because
Glenn. Just come for Glenn.
No,
Only
come for
Glenn.
Josh. Come for Josh. We're all learning ourselves. There's, what is it? Cisgender man.
So cis, I know that cisgendered basically
Oh, there's
means
cisgender, yeah.
the natural state
Yeah.
that you were
Yeah,
born in.
you identify with the
With
the,
your-
Then you have
the gender that you were
yeah,
assigned up
gay,
for.
Yeah.
lesbian. Then we have pansexual. I don't remember.
There's pansexual, demisexual.
Yeah.
And I really think that now that the legislature already signed things for Pride, I hope that the governor's watching this, because I think the island needs, for people like us, evaluation from psychiatry, have it, do a law where we are allowed to have a doctor. We are allowed to go to a doctor and
Yes,
get
that's-
what we need
Yes, a
going to the
specialist.
transition,
Leading, yes,
especially
leading,
if we don't have a
specialist.
job.
Yeah.
Help us, help
that's one
help
of the-
these young
I know
children.
that, I think in Hawaii, they actually have programs to help the trans girls with name change and hormones. We only, right now, I'm only aware of one specialist here on Guam who caters to trans women, but it's not just trans women, but hormone endocrinology. And she's Dr. Alfred at American Medical,
Yeah.
American
Yes,
Medical.
doctor.
Dr. Alfred?
same.
So I know that it's so hard to get in with
She's
her.
the permanent hormone.
Yes.
doctor.
So I think she's like I remember she started out very slow at first. Like she was still, I think she only had a few clients, but now all the
It's
girls are
good.
going to be being referred to her, because you don't need a referral actually to see her. You can just schedule an appointment and then have a sit down with her. You don't need an evaluation like you used to have to. And that's a major blessing. But as Lana was saying, like to our island leaders,
Yeah.
please
you're
help
listening out there,
if
help
you're
us.
listening, help us.
Develop programs.
Yes,
medical
develop-
programs to bring in specialists for our trans.
I'm just glad
trans
that
community.
I've done all the requirements that I needed to get to where I'm at. I'm done with that. I'm now just a plain old lady going to doctors, getting my pills for high blood, diabetes, and all that. But I see the struggle.
Hey, we're human. We're all afflicted
Yeah.
by these conditions.
But I see the struggle of the young
Yes.
ones, and I'm not trying to promote, I don't know if you guys would be offended, or anybody out there, we're even me, in the dictionary, we're all under what? Homosexual. But like I said, we need to be free, we need help, we need this and that. And with all the waving and the parties and everything, I hope that people in the politics would help us, really, not just because we're free, we're fighting for our lives, but we're fighting for paperwork.
Yeah.
We're fighting
Equality.
for black and white.
Yeah, equality and
Yes,
just the basic
yes.
civil rights as any.
Yes.
I honestly feel that if you even had like a program in the Hawaii girls have the one that helps do name changes for the girls, like that little minute step of declaring to the world that this is who I am, that's something that will help immensely. That's a huge confidence booster just to have your name change as a trans individual. It's kind of reaffirming, like, this is the identity that I should have had. This is the truth that I am living.
Yeah. Just like my doctor, when I got the signature for him to tell the world that, and he wrote it down, Lana's a female. She's going through the transition, and how do you say it? Legally, she's female, So I did that. I went and I presented Guam my ID and everything changed right there. I don't know why they're having it a hard time. Somebody just wants to give us a hard time again. I mean, you guys, a hard time. and it's not right. We're all fighting. Every kind of person is fighting for something, but we really do need help.
Yeah.
We really need help.
Even with what you said, like, just because you haven't had the surgery or anything, like, does not mean that you are not trans. That's just a process you take to come full circle with who you are. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're not any less than anybody who's had the surgery done.
Yes, very that. I'm a pre-op trans woman, so I can fully attest to that statement. And for those who are ignorant, trans does not mean transitioning. It means transgender, transsexual.
And then a woman.
Yes, so it is a journey, but it is quite expensive as well to get to that finish line. But if we had programs that would help with assistance, like I said, as small as like hormone therapy and name change, that's a step in the direction.
It's a start, yeah.
It's something that we don't have to necessarily stress over because we have the availability, but we don't have that here on Guam, which is something that I hope we should have soon.
And I hope that what you're saying would come true, because the hardest part for me during the transition is leaving my mom. Every time I get into that airplane, broke my mom's heart, because I had to leave her. My mom and I were very close friends.
Yes.
And it was just hard for her, and hard for me too. But I told her, I have to go. I have to do this, mother, And she goes, I know. Just come back, And I did.
And I know Lana because we're both from Chalampago, so I remember Miss Lana when we were going to church, and she's on the opposite side, and I'm with my family, and I see her with her mom. So
And I had a lot of hard times too in church.
Oh, that's
my mother especially, really.
Yes.
Like I said, my mother was the one that hurt.
People
a
at
lot
church
more.
can be so hurtful.
The murmurs in the back.
the
I mean, I
whispering.
sit in front of the church with my mom because she's old. I have to hold her. And my mom, and I just don't care what they say behind me, but I can hear them giggling and poking at each other. And, my mom's taking all that in you people, and that's one thing the church did to me, was ruin my faith.
That's really sad.
The
because,
people.
They claim to be holy, right? And then they sit there and they do something like that.
Yeah.
They start ridiculing people, and it's just wrong.
It's those holier than thou ones that are the most like hateful.
Yeah,
though.
it's true.
And it's the ones who think they're above the Bible that it's so disheartening to say that, because there are really good people who have faith and who have a good heart. Like my grandmother was one of them.
Yes.
She was one of those Christian mothers of Sinahanya St. Jude Church, and she prayed the rosary as often as she could. She went to Mass every Sunday. A good 90% of my family sings in the churches all across the island. Like, that's how religious my family is. And, we have tetas in the family. We have, I was brought up to pray the rosary every day too. And, after I transitioned, it did take some time for the family to adjust to the pronouns and stuff like that. But I remember after, reconnecting with my parents and like slowly building the bond back, like, because my mom ended up working at SNU with me. So, that's where we reconnected. And I was invited back for the Finaput for Three Kings. And, I was so nervous because, like I said, more than half my family sings for the church. So my grandma was the last one to come, and I remember she came, and I helped her out of the car, and I was so nervous. And my grandma looked at me and she goes, "Oh, so this is the real you, huh? Are you happy?"
Well, maybe that's what it is. Maybe you were the person to shed light on that.
Because in that
getting that validation though means a lot too.
But all in all, though, I really do forgive everyone in my past, and I know I've hurt some of you out there. I've done so many things just because of drugs. That wasn't me, but I just forgive everybody, and I hope you will forgive me too. And move on.
But Lana, that's very moving. Even seeing you now, because I don't know. I guess for me, like, a lot of people tend to look at people who do that as
weak,
just very bad people, but they're failing to realize that it's not them. Addiction is the disease.
Yeah, and it's a battle. I had to go to rehab.
It's a struggle.
To learn what sickness I also had. other than the other sicknesses. But,
But I think that's something that's so great about the way the world has evolved, because back then, what we are was considered a sickness. Like you still talk about it as a sickness, because that's what you were conditioned.
Because that's what people.
Yeah, that's what you
And
grew
they
up.
want to fix
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Fix the homosexuality. Here's a
Yeah.
pill.
Yes.
That was the mentality back
Shock
then.
therapy.
And I think it's such
Oh
a
my God,
blessing
can
that
you
the
imagine?
world has
You
cut.
can't. You're born
Yeah.
that way,
We're in the same lifetime,
Yeah.
but we're generations apart. But
Yeah.
we've experienced it two completely different sides of the coin.
Yes. And
Sickness. Now it's like this is not just a condition.
Just
this
like
is
my
a choice.
family, they're always like when I went to psychiatric, and I went to a lot, they had told me that just be aware that you will always be labeled gay, homosexual, and a drug addict, and a lot of things. And I said, oh my God, but I do understand that now, but I just take it in like how do you say, a grain of salt,
Grain of salt,
and with
And
the
keep
pain
on.
in my heart, I just okay, Lord, I'm hurting. This is for your glory.
Yeah, but
Take it.
Yeah.
you're still here, and that's a testament to how strong you are.
And my family, I still have some that still sometimes their pronoun, and I just sometimes I reply, hey, it's a she. They go, oh, yeah. But, yeah, I still have, not problems, but their mentality, I have to deal with, and I have to suck it up, But I love my family. We're all together now, and especially that I'm back, and it's great, And you're going to go to, I'm just saying this, maybe, I hope not, but you're going to go to a lot of phases.
Oh, I've been through a few myself.
Even
and
me, I'm going through a lot. My face
I
right
think-
now is getting old.
I think
I have to accept that I'm limping. I can't breathe at times. I cannot walk so fast anymore.
fell last
Like
night.
even my friend,
Right.
I have a friend named Bobby, and she holds my hand. Just like last year, she was holding my hand, going to. I said, "Shit! Before we can run to the car, now you're holding my hands because I might fall." Those are things now that I am dealing with.
Speaking with phases, though, I think it's important for people to know too that as gay individuals, as people from the LGBT community, we, not just us, go through phases. Our families who we come out to also go through phases.
Yeah.
And as I was talking about my story with my dad and stuff like that, he went through phases, and during the latter part of his years before he passed, he still would call me his son and this and that, but I'm not going to correct him because he learned to accept me at that point. But it got to the point where I remember I was at a family event. I think it was a funeral, and one of the women there was like, Nen, I know your family, but I can't tell what side of the family you're from. And my dad came up from behind me, didn't see him, and he freaked me out because he's like, "Oh, auntie, this is my girl." And I'm like,
No, really.
"This
like,
my, that my cat."
it was really baffling to me because Trin shared the story with us, and then when I first met the dad, I was just like,
You met him when he was
Yeah.
very supportive,
and I was
right?
just like, are you sure
You're
your
the
dad's
same-
the way
yeah, you're the
you
same
said it?"
Trin's dad,
Like,
like-
it's literally you're explaining somebody, but you're looking at this person,
Yeah.
and you're like, the person you're explaining is not the
They
person
don't
I'm
match,
looking
right?
at.
And
it
maybe
took-
this would help you in your journey to what I learned at already an old age. I learned that I was so selfish when I was changing. It's all about Lana. Lana wants this. You don't call me that, blah, blah, blah. But I learned today that not only was I changing during the time, my family had to go through it. And I just let, oh my God, I really did hurt them, and I'm very sorry if one of the families watching, but I ask for forgiveness for that.
When you transition, I mean, of course, I'm not a trans, but when you transition,
Yes, you are.
right? No, but
I don't know about you. Sometimes you act like a lady.
But when you transition, I think a lot of people fail to realize that like you said, everybody else around you is going through a transition too.
Yes.
Right.
They're transitioning to acceptance.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
They're trying to educate themselves in the situation.
exactly.
Yeah. They're trying to learn to love
Yes.
you.
Right, you're right.
Period.
They've
Right.
loved this one person for their entirety of your life,
And all of a sudden you're
and then
changing.
you no, I wouldn't say changing though.
But not
but
changing,
you're starting
but
to.
you're a different person.
Yes, you're starting to
have somebody
self-identify and
different,
live your
right.
truth.
Not only are
So,
you
yeah.
trying to accept yourself, they're
They
trying
have
to
to do the
accept
same.
themselves.
And
Yes.
the person that's transitioning.
Yeah.
They're
I
trying
think
to
it's
accept that.
harder. I think it's kind of hard for parents who have trans children because they raise their child and they love this child that they raised so much. And then, like in my situation, within a span of 5 years, I came back and I transitioned and I was a different person. Like it took a whole readjustment for my family to learn who Trinity is, and like I basically
Right.
kind of was almost the same person, but I was more free and I could care less what anybody had to say.
And you're happy.
Yes, and with my situation, I think because I was raised, my mom and dad, the people I call my mom and dad are actually my uncle and aunt. I was raised by my mom's brother and his wife, because my mom was one of the soldiers for the war on ice, and. Did you guys get it now? Okay, yeah. Sorry, Mom. But when I came out to my
No, where was Banker?
I might like it. But when I came out to my mom, I actually was comfortable enough to come out to my birth mom because she's my mom. So I came out to her, and then funny enough, after maybe a few years, not even, I think just a year after being married and divorced, she ended up coming to stay with me in my apartment, and then she started to date women, and I'm just like, oh, my mother's a lesbian. Okay,
did she
Mom.
do, right?
More power to you, Mom. And then now on my family we have there's a few of us who are out and proud from the rainbow community on both sides of my family, and I'm very proud of that because I wouldn't say that I was the front leader for that, but I definitely was the loudest one.
Right.
I was the most visible. There was.
Well, maybe you were the one that gave them the voice
maybe you were
to.
the
I'm
front.
still the only trans girl in my family though. But and for my nephews on my Sionko side, I try to make sure that whenever they come to me, it's going to be a safe space. It's always going to be
Yes,
a positive
right,
sort
yes.
of, because I grew up in that set where it wasn't always positive to be who I was, and anybody in my family who is who's against the grain, I guess, so to speak. Everybody has a different label now, so I think it's important to try and harbor that good-natured, nurturing environment because
Maybe that's why you had to go through what you went through.
I
Because
think
look at your
so.
mindset now. You're so much stronger.
Kyle calls me the Mother Teresa in the group.
And that's okay.
It is.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. I mean, if we can reach out and help someone in our community, a family member,
Even
or
if it's just one person.
Yeah, even if it's
Yes.
just one person that they got that message, and we are a beacon of light for them. That's all that matters.
Yeah, they say, the
But-
Lord works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
But we continue to strive to be visible. We strive to fight for equality, and acceptance. And sadly, hate still exists, and
Yeah.
we have to rise above that every day. And
Sometimes
fight.
I do watch. I watch the actions of some, and I'm gonna be honest. Lana, all these girls paved the way for trans, for gay men. They really did it. They did it. They made it easier for us, and like Trinity said, we just continued it and continued, made it better and stuff. But I'm watching a lot of them now, and sometimes their actions are a little too much, and that may be the cause of why a lot of people are going back to the ways of prejudice, and stuff like that, because
I completely agree. I was
Right?
just at Ukudi
Yes.
this morning, and I was telling the
Yeah.
students, I said, this generation of rainbow children are very aggressive with
Very,
who they are.
very aggressive.
And,
I've seen that. Yes.
I appreciate that they're able to identify themselves and live their truths at such a young age. But in the same token, my dear,
Yeah.
please be respectful, because
Right.
No,
Exactly.
the generations
I hear you. Yeah.
before you have worked
Yeah.
so hard to gain the respect that we have, to gain the
Oh,
respect for
trust
you.
me.
I work in this. Yeah,
And-
Trin, I work in the
and
schools.
A lot of them that we're talking about, I think they're in so much denial and fear. And, it's like, if I'm in that group, I want to tell them, stop being naive. You know, let's just be us and stop this.
I work in the school system and I see it. You know, you can already identify, because I work with children in the elementary, middle, and high school, and I see them growing up, and you can already tell that they're going to be future rainbow children. But the ones, especially in the high school, like when I go in, they size you up, they atan bob you, and I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
Wait a minute,
You
honey.
understand that it was us.
We paved the way for you, and you're right. Show some respect. You rainbow children out there, you need to check yourself.
Or else Uncle Glenn's gonna come with the belt.
There was one morning I was watching the school aides taking the students, and one of them, one of the rainbow children walked in. I said, "Oh, hey, hello," and I, mentioned the person's name. I won't say it on there, but I mentioned his name, and he turns around and he goes, "Oh, Mr. Robert, it's so and so now." I don't, and because I have to still work, act on that professional, at a professional capacity, I looked at him and I said, "Not to me." I said, I can respect you as that person, but I still have to call you by that name until I see some legal documents. And as long as Power School says that this is your name, I have to go by that name. I'm not trying to confuse a lot of people. And, it makes me happy that they're coming out and, they're able to do, to do what they're doing, walk around and be free and stuff. But like I said, a lot of them are a little too much. And I don't think they realize that they're the ones that are actually making it hard for themselves now. They're if they want to live freely, do what you need to do for your future, but don't create a future that's going to be bad for you. You're going to walk right. Yeah. I mean, I had to walk in when I would be walking in the malls. I heard words like faggot. I heard them all. But all I could do was just put my head up high and just keep walking like I didn't hear it. Even though I heard it, and it hurt. It hurt, and it hurt a lot because, all I was trying to do was just live my life. But, there's always that one or two people that try to bring you down, right? Even if you don't know them, they try to bring you down. But like I said, all you can do is live your life, and that's
young children now are so spoiled.
Yes, they are.
So spoiled.
And
I really
sense of entitlement.
And I really think that
away, right?
most of the young, you call them rainbows or green, whatever. I think they. And I'm not condemning anybody smoking marijuana because I did my stuff, But as the youngest one, we need to teach them. Not now,
There's a time for everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
But
There's a time for everything.
you're not
Right.
supposed to be doing that, especially you're still in school.
Yeah.
The
mind is still developing.
Yes, and the mind is
Correct.
being disturbed by them smoking that because they're still young.
And at tonight, Lana, your time marijuana was illegal. Look now,
I know, and it's like I
legal
told my
now.
family that
Who would've thought,
when I
right?
came back, I said, I see a lot of them, and I'm sorry to say, they're all smoking this marijuana, relatives, and it's like, oh my gosh, during my days, I would be chopped in pieces if I was caught with marijuana. Or, I remember coming home from work, and my nephews, and my nieces, they would be out there, and they would be like, there's the faggot, and it's out loud, and my mom can hear it. Faggot, druggy, mentally, mental, all that. And when I came back, everything turned around, and it's like, I told my sister, I said, remember, you used to cuss me out, all of you. Tell mom to kick me out because I'm this, I'm ruining the family name. And it's like, now all you guys say it's okay because they can do it here at the house. I just like, wow, and I wish things would change for the better, but this is an ongoing life.
Yes, it is.
The world is changing, the life is changing, and it's not really gonna get better, I think. And I study the Bible, and I'm just letting everybody know that. And I really thank God, and all I ask of you too is, have God in your life. No matter what,
Yes.
Because even if I was to do drugs, I always will have the Lord
I think
in my
faith
life.
is something that's important to have in your life.
To
When you're
save us.
especially
Yes.
to
Yes.
save
And like,
your faith
in this life.
Correct.
going back to kind of piggybacking off of what Lana said about, the family dealing with the family issues and stuff like that. Like, I'm pretty sure that everybody's had that fair share and stuff like that. And, you know, going back to how that horrid night of mine when I was kicked out of the house and stuff like that, I actually had a conversation with my mom, like, after I came back for my dad's funeral. And, you know, we were outside talking, and she broke down and apologized to me. And she said she could have been a better mother that in that moment. And she, you know, she's sorry that she did what she, and, you know, like, just the fact that she acknowledged that, like, that meant the world. And, like, my dad, like, before he died, it was so funny because he used to always say this thing to my cousins who always thought they were tougher than me, like, you think Trin's a faggot, but she's the toughest faggot I know. Like, you know, he had my back in that, like, sort of humorous sense. And because he knows that he taught me how to kill pig, build a shack, drive stick, like, all those things. I was raised on the ranch, honey. I know how to survive.
Right.
So, you know, like, I think it's all just, like Lana said, taken with a grain of salt. It's how you process and how you deal with your surroundings. It really does take a toll sometimes, but you have to surround yourself with your tribe, your chosen family, your family that will get your back and will reinforce you with positive energy. Like, these past 2 months have been very, very grueling for me mentally, and I'm going through a lot, and it's not over yet. It's almost over, hopefully, thank goodness. But if it wasn't for my sisters from the House of Diosa and like 3 weeks ago after the show, I was so close again to, like, you know, just saying goodbye to the world. And it was a phone call from one of the girls who are in the States, and, like, she saved my ass, and she may have kicked me in the middle, but she sure as hell saved me in the same token because she had nothing but tough love for me. And, you know, sometimes that's what we need. We just need the love around us. And for those of you who are struggling to try and find yourself and find your tribe, like, you're not alone. There are people out there.
Said, yes.
You know, you will find people that you can identify with. You will find people that, you know, like, will have your back and are going through the same thing that you're going through. Just be patient. And, like, look what happened with my mom and dad. Like, I didn't see them for, like, nearly 5 years, but at the end of the day, like, my mom teases me that I'm her queen baby, like, you know, and, like, right. My dad, like, I know that at the end of his final years, he had love for the person that I had become. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to see me compete in any pageants and stuff like that, but he has seen me perform on stage, and he was impressed. And it was, you know, it was a blessing because this was something that I cared to do, and he cared for it just as much because I was his child.
I see.
You know, and it's things like that it really just takes time for things to process, and sometimes it may not work out in the end, but at the end of the day, just live your life for yourself, and you'll be all the more happier.
Yeah.
And enjoy every second.
Yeah.
Because we have very short time, really. You know, life to me now is spread. I used to not even think about I always deny people telling me, oh, your life is going to be good. You're going to be gifted because you took care of your mother. Mm-hmm. You know, life to me is not like that. Life to me, for me, is me. And I'm going to enjoy every second until I go to
life
my grave.
Life is what you make it.
Yeah. Yes. And and the pride or whatever, you know, enjoy every second and stop this insanity that we see you're creating, and just love one another and take one second at a time.
1 second at a time.
I'm going to switch off, and I'm going to bring Peter Constantino in my place.
Okay.
He's one of the legendary girls as well, or legendary gay guys, I should say, that taught me, and, you know, they've all brought me up.